In Chapter 1 of The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, the author introduces a poet named Charles Bukowski. Charles Bukowski was living in his worst days because his dream of being a writer was getting humiliated due to rejection, which led him to an alcoholic-fueled depression for most of his life. He was having a day job, paid shit money that too he wasted on alcohol and gambling. 30 years went by like this, and after 50 years of failures of life, an editor of small independent publishing house showed little some curious interest in Bukowski, although he could not pay much to Bukowski but still want to take chance on him. To which Bukowski replied, "I have one of two choices, stay in the post office and go crazy, or stay out here and play at writer and star. I have decided to star." Upon then Bukowski wrote his first novel in 3 weeks and titled as Post Office, and in the dedication he wrote to nobody. He then wrote 6 novels and hundreds of poems, selling over 2 million of copies. He outrun others' expectations. He never stopped trying. He always believed in himself. He persisted against all the odds and made something of himself. It is then strange that on Bukowski's tombstone, the epitaph reads, "Don't try." He never tried to be anything other than what he was. The genius in Bukowski's work was not in overcoming unbelievable odds or developing himself into a shining literary light. It was the opposite. It was his simple ability to be completely, unflinchingly honest with himself, especially the worst parts of himself, and to share his failings without hesitation or doubt. This is the real story of Bukowski's success, his comfort with himself as a failure. Bukowski didn't give a fuck about success. Fame and success didn't make him a better person. Self-improvement and success often occur together. But that doesn't necessarily mean they are the same thing. Our culture today is obsessively focused on unrealistically positive expectations. But when you stop and really think about it, conventional life advice, all the positive and happy self-help stuff we hear all the time, is actually fixating on what you lack. Ironically, this fixation on the positive, on what's better, what's superior, only serves to remind us over and over again of what we are not, of what we lack, of what we should have been but failed to be. After all, no truly happy person feels the need to stand in front of a mirror and recite that she's happy. She just is. There is a saying in Texas, "The smallest dog barks the loudest." A confident man doesn't feel a need to prove that he is confident. A rich woman doesn't feel a need to convince anybody that she's rich. Either you are or you are not. And if you are dreaming of something all the time, then you are reinforcing the same unconscious reality over and over, that you are not that. Everyone and their TV commercial wants you to believe that the key to a good life is a nicer job, or a more rugged car, or a prettier girlfriend, or a hot tub with an inflatable pool for the kids. The world is constantly telling you that the path to a better life is more, buy more, own more, make more, fuck more, be more. You are constantly bombarded with messages to give a fuck about everything all the time. Why? My guess, because giving a fuck about more stuff is good for business. Giving too many fucks is bad for your mental health. It causes you to become overly attached to the superficial and fake, to dedicate your life to chasing a mirage of happiness and satisfaction. The key to a good life is not giving a fuck about more, It's giving a fuck about less, giving a fuck about only what is true and immediate and important. The feedback loop from hell. There is an insidious quirk to your brain that, if you let it, can drive you absolutely batty. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You get anxious about confronting somebody in your life. That anxiety cripples you and you start wondering why you are so anxious. Now you are becoming anxious about being anxious. Oh no! Doubly anxious. Now you are anxious about your anxiety, which is causing more anxiety. Quick, where's the whiskey? Welcome to the feedback loop from hell. Chances are you have engaged in it more than a few times. Maybe you are engaging in it right now. God, I do the feedback loop all the time. I'm such a loser for doing it. I should stop. Oh my God, I feel like such a loser for calling myself a loser. I should stop calling myself a loser. Ah, fuck. I'm doing it again. See? I'm a loser. Argh. The feedback loop from hell has become a borderline epidemic, making many of us overly stressed, overly neurotic, and overly self-loathing. Back in Grandpa's day, he would feel like shit and think to himself, gee whiz, I sure do feel like a cow turd today. But hey, I guess that's just life. Back to shoveling hay. But now if you feel like shit for even 5 minutes, you are bombarded with 350 images of people totally happy and having amazing fucking lives, and it's impossible to not feel like there is something wrong with you. We feel bad about feeling bad. We feel guilty for feeling guilty. We get angry about getting angry. We get anxious about feeling anxious. What is wrong with me? This is why not giving a fuck is so key. By not giving a fuck that you feel bad, you short-circuit the feedback loop from hell. You say to yourself, I feel like shit, but who gives a fuck? And then, as if sprinkled by magic fuck-giving fairy dust, you stop hating yourself for feeling so bad. Because here is the thing that's wrong with all of the how to be happy shit that's been shared 8 million times on Facebook in the past few years. Here is what nobody realizes about all of this crap. The desire for more positive experience is itself a negative experience. And, paradoxically, the acceptance of one's negative experience is itself a positive experience. This is a total mindfuck. Wanting positive experience is a negative experience, accepting negative experience is a positive experience. It's what the philosopher Alan Watts used to refer to as the backwards law, the idea that the more you pursue feeling better all the time, the less satisfied you become, as pursuing something only reinforces the fact that you lack it in the first place. As the existential philosopher Albert Camus, you will never be happy if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life. Or put more simply, don't try. Ever notice that sometimes when you care less about something, you do better at it? Notice how it's often the person who is the least invested in the success of something that actually ends up achieving it. Notice how sometimes when you stop giving a fuck, everything seems to fall into place. The pain of honest confrontation is what generates the greatest trust and respect in your relationships. Suffering through your fears and anxieties is what allows you to build courage and perseverance. The avoidance of suffering is a form of suffering. Pain is an inextricable thread in the fabric of life, and to tear it out is not only impossible but destructive, attempting to tear it out unravels everything else with it. To try to avoid pain is to give too many fucks about pain. In contrast, if you are able to not give a fuck about the pain, you become unstoppable. To not give a fuck is to stare down life's most terrifying and difficult challenges and still take action. Most of us struggle throughout our lives by giving too many fucks in situations where fucks do not deserve to be given. What I'm talking about here is essentially learning how to focus and prioritize your thoughts effectively, how to pick and choose what matters to you and what does not matter to you based on finely honed personal values. The subtle art of not giving a fuck. So what does not giving a fuck mean? Let's look at 3 subtleties that should help clarify the matter. Subtlety number 1. Not giving a fuck does not mean being indifferent. It means being comfortable with being different. There is absolutely nothing admirable or confident about indifference. People who are indifferent are lame and scared. In fact, indifferent people often attempt to be indifferent because in reality they give way to many fucks. They give a fuck about what everyone thinks of their hair, so they never bother washing or combing it. They give a fuck about what everyone thinks of their ideas, so they hide behind sarcasm and self-righteous snark. They are afraid to let anyone get close to them, so they imagine themselves as some special, unique snowflake who has problems that nobody else would ever understand. Here is a sneaky truth about life. There is no such thing as not giving a fuck. You must give a fuck about something. It's part of our biology to always care about something and therefore to always give a fuck. When we say, damn, watch out, Mark Manson just don't give a fuck, we don't mean that Mark Manson doesn't care about anything. On the contrary, we mean that Mark Manson doesn't care about adversity in the face of his goals. He doesn't care about pissing some people off to do what he feels is right or important. Here is another sneaky little truth about life. You can't be an important and life-changing presence for some people without also being a joke and an embarrassment to others. Subtlety number 2. To not give a fuck about adversity, you must first give a fuck about something more important than adversity. If you find yourself consistently giving too many fucks about trivial shit that bothers you, chances are you don't have much going on in your life to give a legitimate fuck about. I once heard an artist say that when a person has no problems, the mind automatically finds a way to invent some. It then follows that finding something important and meaningful in your life is perhaps the most productive use of your time and energy. Because if you don't find that meaningful something, your fucks will be given to meaningless and frivolous causes. Subtlety number 3. Whether you realize it or not, you are always choosing what to give a fuck about. People aren't just born not giving a fuck. In fact, we are born giving way to many fucks. As we get older, with the benefit of experience, and having seen so much time slip by, we begin to notice that most of these sorts of things have little lasting impact on our lives. Essentially, we become more selective about the fucks we are willing to give. This is something called maturity. Then, as we grow older and enter middle age, something else begins to change. Our energy level drops. Our identity solidifies. And in a strange way, this is liberating. We no longer need to give a fuck about everything. Life is just what it is.